Hello, you guys. It is Ebony. It is I, and today we're going to talk about Miss Amaarae. I did a video on her kind of recently, a couple months ago. When someone had asked me to go more in depth about her next project, mostly because we were just talking about, like, I think they commented on the Roma video, and they were just talking about how I mentioned some of the innovation that has to come to Afrobeats. I cannot wait to talk about new music because I have some thoughts on that. But yeah, and I had also mentioned Amaarae in my video last week covering like Stargirl and all that, just because I feel like there are definitely some albums that are pivotal to the growth of a movement, and I feel like Black Star was so underrated in doing that. So I was like, yeah, I'll totally go into it. I personally, I don't think this is gonna be that long because I literally just was talking about her, but this is not really about her personal life or how she's doing. This is specifically about her next project. So yeah. Also, I honestly should be coming to you guys with more hair content, but like I can't be bothered. I think this scrunchie is really cute. I'm wearing this bitch out. I'm wearing this bitch out. I love this little high bun with the hanging pieces. Yeah, I'll get back to you guys. Anyway, okay, specifically to discuss it, I think she could have been very disappointed by the performance of her last album. She could have felt like it was very intuitive or it was very innovative. She could have felt like she was ahead of the time or had her pulse on the culture and no one really responded to it. Especially if she felt like I really gave you guys so much, because it wasn't just an Afrobeats project that had like one EDM sample. It was definitely throughout very alternative, very very pop in a way that you do not see the girls do in Afrobeats in general. But like I said, it to me it was a very very gay take on Afrobeats in a very good way. Yeah, I feel like there's a part of me that feels like she assumed that it would break her through to the mainstream or do something innovative for the genre. I don't know if she feels like she lost money on it or she feels like she definitely didn't make as much as she would have liked. She might have made it back in terms of like performance or like touring, but in terms of like making money on the project the way that she thought it might sell, especially if she was the word juggernaut is coming through. So I don't know if she had people around her or convincing her like this is all this is gonna blow, this is gonna do all this and that, and then it didn't do that. There might have been a lot of money invested into it very personally. So I don't know if this is not just like getting is she independent or is she under a label? I'm not sure. But there's a lot I feel like there's a lot of money that went into this that came straight from her pocket, especially if she's not already independent. Maybe she's independent, but she spent more money on this project than she has with some of her other independently funded ones. Yeah, but she felt like people either skipped right over it or really gave her hell on earth for it. I think that she felt like it was a little bit too ahead of its time, which I agree. I agree. I definitely do agree in terms of Afrobeats, but in general, like of pop, I think that honestly, I think it was definitely right on time. I just don't think that Afrobeats has really had the intersection with pop the way that people want it to. Even the girls like Tyla and Ira, I've said before, they're still majorly R&B artists. Like they put the pop, they as figures put the pop in pop star, but not necessarily their music, and not necessarily their movement. I think she's very proud of that work, and she thinks she probably. I'm thinking about Grace Jones. I feel like she sees that as one of those things that, in retrospect, people will understand, that people will appreciate more. This might be the kind of project where a couple years down the line, people listen to it more. It could also be a thing of where if it inspires the right person, it definitely existed at the right time, right? It just like I think she's going to see it in the long run as it was worth it. I think that she doesn't doubt it or she's not confused about it at all, but she does feel like people kind of paid the dust. I want to say to their own detriment because now you see other people who want to do things that are still not received well, or the genre is still kind of plateauing and people are kind of ignoring it. I literally just saw tweets today where people were just like, girl, if people, and I've heard Black American people say this, if they play any more than 3 Afrobeat songs in a row, I'm fucking leaving. Like they be saying that shit. Like, yeah, she honestly may feel like the genre is dying due to people like her not being pushed, and she may even feel like there will be a regret that at the time when she did that it wasn't kind of celebrated more, because now when certain people are trying to break through certain barriers or play in certain genres and mix certain genres of Afrobeats, it's still hard. I feel like she feels like a lot of people are facing a lot of difficulty innovating because people did not appreciate her when she did something like that and kind of stepped out. you know yeah, I do strongly feel like she feels like people overlooked me, or I might not ever get my chance with this the way I deserve, but somebody else will, or the things I did will contribute to this new movement. Like I said, there are going to be new people who reference me, other people who kind of buy off my style, or what I did will be respected in the next couple of years, but when I did it, it was disrespected and it was overlooked. I don't know if I mentioned this in the first video, but I don't know if it may be a long while till we get another project from her, or like I don't know if she feels a little bit discouraged by some of the quote unquote failure that she's had. There might also be a lack of funding, that might delay things, having the money to really do it the way that she wants. I feel like Amma may benefit from a new label, getting a new label. Some people who understand her vision more. This may even be new management or new representation. I don't know. In general, she could be having money issues, like money is not what it's supposed to be, or people are misappropriating funds. because it doesn't seem like, to me, like someone is blocking her usage of certain things, but this could be because they don't want to give her certain things, and there's a very specific about not giving her things, or they're specifically taking from her. Yeah, I do not feel like she's in a good place in terms of making music. Like I don't think it's a very easy process. And she, like, I'm thinking about Shabo, and I know that she went through issues with her manager, right? Where, and that kind of effectively, I don't want to say it took her off, but it definitely kind of, her profile just became a lot lower than it was before, and she wasn't, a huge presence. So losing that kind of momentum can be kind of detrimental to a career. I feel like Amma has that. She might have people who are watching her or kind of pocket watching. This may even be her kind of very closely watching other people. I also want to say that, especially the thing about it is, Alma's always been open with her sexuality and like what she got going on, but she may have some people around her who are a little bit oppressive to this, because I feel like the next album could probably be very, very queer. Like it might be something that references loving women a lot, and especially in the visuals. Like, I know First Let Me Out, obviously there was a girl dancing in the video. Like we're no stranger to the fact that she's very openly into women, and obviously her queerness and her queer experiences paint the way that she kind of creates and she writes. And so I feel like this could be very central to what she creates next. I just think the openness of this queerness could be a little bit controversial. Like, I think the music is good. I just think that the visuals and some of the depictions of um lesbianism, of being sapphic, whichever way you want to call it, because I don't think she's lesbian. I think she's into women, but I don't think she's lesbian. This might be something that gets a lot of backlash from people. The thing about it is, I do think that Amma is capable of making great work. I just don't know that she's capable of making something that is able to be respected by people enough to kind of be the innovation that it needs to be, if that makes sense. Like, it's not to say that it's not like there's a lack of effort. I do think there's a lack of reception. This might even be a thing where, for example, I don't think give Rema a hard time, but this might be the kind of thing where if a man did it and they were depicting women in the same way or having the same beats and having the same conversations, they would accept it. But because she's a queer woman, people might not accept it. They might not like it as much. Sometimes it's just one of those things where, like, I'm not saying this is literally Rema, but sometimes it may even be that her style doesn't really sell well on her, if that makes sense. Not that I always believe that, but for example, like, how Fifi Dobson, they was not fucking jacking her. Like, they were not. They were like, girl, you can't do that. They give her stuff to Hannah Montana or Miley Cyrus, and all of a sudden she's on the Disney Channel. Like, the same girl who people told her that she could not sell and it was not good, she was good enough for a Disney Channel star. Like, don't Start All Over is Fifi Dobson's song, right? Yeah, she may even, that might even be where this financial thing, or feeling like people are stealing, are coming from. Girl, I'm fucking up the Slim Jim. I'm so sorry. Hold on. Yeah, I do think that we're gonna see lots of things that resemble her on other people, and that might piss her off, because it's like, when I did it, it wasn't cute. This might even be like going back to the whole TBFS thing. I've said before, TBFS takes a lot of inspiration from women and femininity. I'm not saying that TBFS will steal from her, but it might be someone who else who is, depicting women and queerness in a way that is innovative. I think visually, and her club sound is something that other people kind of play in, and they find a lot of success in. I'll say this much: I don't think that amaarae owns pop music. I don't think she owns dance music, and I do not think that she necessarily owns the innovation in Afrobeats. I do think that she will inspire other people, and unfortunately, she may see other people take inspiration from her and have a lot more success. But I do not think it's a thing of like straight up copying, like, oh, she made this song, this EDM song, I'm gonna create something that sounds exactly like it, slap my name on it, and because I'm a little bit more marketable, whether it's because it's somebody who's more conventionally attractive or it's a man or something like that, they get a bunch of success. It's not literally stealing from her, but I do think that there may be somebody else who comes behind her who has a lot of inspiration that directly comes from her or parallels her music quite a bit, right? Like, for example, with the whole Tyla and Ira thing. Um, I've said before, Tyla and Ira are the same exact age, both girls from Africa, both, very into R&B and want to do a lot of, want to be pop stars, want to have this innovation for their country. So a lot of what they create sonically, aesthetically, is going to overlap. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're always stealing from each other, but there are some ways in which, even if they didn't necessarily steal from each other, just because based on where they come from and based on age, there's going to be similarities. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think people are necessarily stealing from her, but there is a lot of similarity. I honestly think this is one of those things where if she released after this person, like, let's say she put out what she did in 2024, let's say this person puts out a project in 2027, and then she puts out something the end of 2027 or 2028, I think at that point people would understand what she is going for and what she does a lot more. Like, I think that she could be successful in her next project, but it's not going to be till somebody else has success with this thing. Like I said, I do think Amma might feel like other people are stealing from her, and so this might be one of those things, like a pointing fingers, like, oh, you took this from me. If it wasn't for me, then X, Y, and Z. I still do not feel like it was actually like a theft. Like, I think it's just one of those things where sometimes you're similar to people, right? It's not like no one was created in a vacuum. We're all on the same internet, experiencing the same things. Even like I said with Ira and Tyla, you can be from a completely different place and come to the same conclusions, because things are not always mutually exclusive just to one person to one place. Also, like, this on top of this, Amma didn't invent being gay. She didn't invent dance music. And this is not to downplay her. It's just to say that not everybody who has a style similar to you is specifically taking from you, right? This is not like, I'm thinking about, for example, with Tyler referencing Britney Spears. Like, I know that she was like, oh no, that 9 times out of 10 came from Britney. Like, that was a very specific thing. Like, if two African people make EDM, that's not exactly the same thing. It's one thing if we're on the song talking about the same exact things or whatever, but it's not like a cookie cutter kind of thing where it's like if you put these next to each other, it's the same. It kind of reminds me of Princess Nokia when she's playing her and Ariana Grande song, like, doesn't that sound familiar? And it's like, not really. Like, I don't know. I just fear that her I'm gonna say attitude. When I say this, I really don't mean that to be in a pointed way, but like people just might feel like she's kind of beating her chest over nothing, like you're kind of dying over nothing. People just weren't going to listen to you because people know who amaarae is, and amaarae literally had a hit before this last album that honestly didn't do well. As someone who loves the album, she had hits, so it kind of seems like it just wasn't going to be you. It just wasn't for you. It wasn't your thing. It wasn't your time, right? And you shouldn't really take that as personal as she might take it. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. I feel like she is an inspiration to some of these people who will have success, that in a way that may be similar to her with their queerness, with their sounds and their innovations in dance and pop music. In general, I feel like Afrobeats is definitely moving towards that way. Um, and I do think that she's definitely going to be up there in terms of Mount Rushmore, in terms of like being innovators and people who are ahead of their time. I just don't think that she's ever going to get her flowers the way that she might feel like she deserves. And I do think a lot of this is kind of pointing fingers, not realizing that you're part of a movement, not necessarily that you are the only person who's ever done this, and people need to kind of kiss the ring. Not to say that and when I say this, like I said, I don't think that she's kind of arrogant or even wrong for feeling like she deserves her props, but not everything means everyone is stealing from you. Like, some, don't get me wrong, there are people who plagiarize, but I do think that she's going to be trying to point the finger in a way where it's not really valid. I also think the sad truth about this is people may not like her as much as they might like this next person. So I do think that people may not defend her in the way that she may feel like she deserves as well. I do think parts of it is unfounded. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I hope this doesn't make her sound bad, or because like I understand that, like people are artists and they're sensitive about their stuff, so I totally understand her being defensive. I just don't think that she's, as much as I understand her being protective, I just don't think this is the hill to die on. I just don't think there's enough similarities for her to be like, oh, I was stolen from. I do think that she's an inspiration and she's part of a generation of people who are innovators, but she's not necessarily the sole one, and she's not necessarily, you know, the one that she's not necessarily somebody that people directly took from, even if she was an inspiration. Like, you might have been on the mood board. It doesn't necessarily mean that I stole from you. We just like the same kinds of things, and that's why you're on the mood board. I'm gonna put it like this. Like, at the end of the day, you could say that Christina Aguilera was given a chance, or she was pushed because she was going against Britney Spears, but at some point their careers, their images became so different that it's hard for Christina, it'd be hard for Britney or Christina to say I led the pack or I was this to that person, because it ended up being so different. So like I said, it's not to say that there's no overlap in the inspiration, but we're really not the same people, and there's not real theft going on, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Light skinned bitch, fuck you, go to fuck hell. Go on with your fucking life. I'm doing the opposite way. I'm moving on. Fuck hell with you, bitch.